Okay, welcome to Insight Studio live stream. My name is David Chantry. I'm the UK sales manager from Advantech. And today the topic we are talking about is from kiosk to smart interactions, the next evolution in self-service AI. With me today, I have industry expert, visionary, founder, and Chief Solution Architect of imageHOLDERS, Adrian Thompson. Adrian, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Great. So, we go straight into it. The consumers of today, including myself, have higher expectations. Kiosks are becoming more complex, but that's not always been the case. So when you started imageHOLDERS 20 years ago, how has that evolution changed, and how do you see it different today?
Sure. Well, 20 years ago, there was an opportunity to start developing kiosks. They were just really big, clunky metal boxes with old touchscreen technology where you really had to press and then wait, and there was a pause. Really unintuitive. And as a product designer, I would go and see these things, try to use them, and become really frustrated. And I just thought there was a real opportunity to transform that industry. And it's been an incredibly interesting journey since we started imageHOLDERS. So back then, really unintuitive, engineered, non-design orientated solutions. And the other part of that, we're at the beginning of the digital revolution. You just had digital printers, you had plasma screens that were really big and thick. You didn't have the very beginning of IoT technology, so you had USB ports, but you couldn't transport power and data simultaneously by USB hubs and get devices to talk to each other in any elegant way. You needed back-end servers. So in the early days, the solutions we did and the orders were very small, non-scalable. There were proof of concept units. And the first few years were really quite difficult. And then, as you had tablet technology come through, that started to change things. The launch of the iPad was a significant game changer. And actually, we moved from larger screens back down to tablet-based kiosks back in 2012. And then very rapidly from there, we were able to then implement what I call proper IoT technology, get much more elegant solutions, get really slimmed down, design-led solutions that people actually wanted to interact with. So that's when we really started to see scale. And if you think about that going forwards to today, we are in a position where, we're literally in the eye of the storm. You've still got the digital revolution happening, but you've also got an AI revolution. You've got IoT coming through. These things are all blending together into a real transformational and really exciting time in our history, actually, to bring these things. So we're really seeing a transformation of how we interact with this technology. And ultimately, that's what imageHOLDERS is all about. It's about, holding the image of a company. That's where the name comes from, and bring that together in a very design-led, user-centric manner to allow humans to interact with technology.
Thank you. So, what do you see as the current market demands, the needs, and the expectations of today's market?
Yeah, so, in a nutshell, the only reason anybody ever buys anything from imageHOLDERS is because they want a return on investment, ultimately, because we sell to businesses. So we have to prove that the solutions they're going to buy are going to give them a productivity gain or increase their revenue. But in order to do that, it's very easy to lose sight of, if you're only looking at ROI and you're thinking about something operationally, you never really win, because you can look at the software, how do you save money, how do you try to buy that printer or screen cheaper, but you're not really adding value to the customer experience. So the customer gets forgotten about. The actual consumer who's actually interacting with that that kiosk or that digital endpoint. And that's really where we start. So we always try to bring our clients back to make sure that they're actually thinking in a customer first. Even though they're our customer, we're really concerned with their customer.
Yeah.
So we have to think through that perspective. So but you also have to understand the perspective of the client because, it's their company, it's their brand. So we have to align really with the journey it's going through a journey with the client to align all these different things. So building a kiosk, deploying a kiosk as a solution, with maybe a multinational organization, like if you think about QSRs are in, maybe some of the big QSRs are in maybe 70 to 200 countries. They've got to they're all across the world. They have to work through different languages, different cultures, and really they want to have one basic design that anyone in the world can interact with. And that's, quite a intimidating brief, if you like. But, it's also an achievable brief, and that was one of the sort of like founding sort of visionary things that we wanted to be able to achieve. We wanted to make solutions that anybody in the world, in any culture, any age, any demographic, any language could interact with. And we weren't able to do that at first because the technology wasn't there to support it. But now, as a result of all of these different things with AI and different devices and software and middleware and working in collaboration with partners like Advantech, we're able to bring these solutions together and make them more accessible.
Actually, I think the needs and expectations of your customer and their customer are actually slightly different as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're delivering to, if you take a client of ours like United Airlines, they're our customer, but their customer is the general public or people traveling to see their friends, family, traveling on business, and they have to their perception is they want to walk into the airport, see something, know how to use it intuitively. It's got to be, subconsciously, intuitively easy to understand, and just walk up to that machine, know what it's there for, understand how to do it without thinking, and just go through that user journey, get their boarding pass, get the bag tag, know what to do with it, and carry on with the journey. And we've been able to achieve that vision, but by doing that, we make our client, United Airlines, incredibly happy.
Amazing. And so the challenges that you have to overcome and the pain points and barriers that need to be addressed, what are they?
Sure. So the main challenge is really keeping up with technology because it's changing so fast. So, and this is where just if you only have an engineered approach and you start every project as a kind of customized solution, you're going to fail because, it takes a long time to get to market. So we've got a very modular theory. So we learn and take insight from all the different areas we work in. So we work across healthcare, retail, banking, postal, many other sectors, subsectors. And then we've got a series of user journeys that we can go through, from visitor management to self-check-in to, QSR, POS, you name it. I won't list them all, there's piles of them. But what we've been able to do is kind of compile that matrix and come up with modular solutions that empower each of those user journeys. So therefore, we're able to configure solutions to order. And because we've got modules that are proven in the field across these industries and that are largely cross-compatible across those sectors, we're able to configure a solution, get a proof of concept, often in days or weeks, to a client, get feedback. And that's really important because what's actually happening is, if you think about it, especially with the advent of AI, that's demanding mass personalization at scale. If you look at everybody's cell phone in here, everybody has a different interface. Everybody's tailored your phone to your personal requirements. You've all got different apps on. That has to happen in business as well. So the clients want to have something which is personalized to their brand, but can scale across their organization. So we're able to achieve all of these multiple, quite complex touch points throughout the process to deploy and scale. You know, imageHOLDERS is just not about design, it's about logistics, project management, working with partners, software partners, hardware partners, installation partners, maintenance partners, and you have to align all of these complex, this collaboration and programs across all of these things across the globe, and that's complicated. But that's ultimately what you have to do to achieve the vision.
And at scale.
And at scale, yeah.
So imageHOLDERS in the last, for sure, 12 months, you've had some really successful wins. Can you share some strategies behind the success of, the implementation process and how you came about to, winning those nice, big, and in some cases, global projects?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think, firstly, it's really important to understand that there's graveyards of unsuccessful kiosk deployments out there where people haven't taken this approach, and we often get clients come to us and said, well, we tried kiosks, but they didn't really work for us. And then we talk to them about how they went about it, and we say, well, look, why don't we go through the imageHOLDER approach, which is largely what I've just explained, where we've got a very set process that we go through from really listening to a client. The first thing we want to understand is what their vision is. Second thing is we want to understand what their user journey is. And then we start to get a really deep understanding of what they're trying to achieve. Unless you go through that process first, you're going to fail, basically. The worst thing they can do is go off, and you see clients and just, look in a catalog and they go, oh, let's go and buy 1,000 kiosks. And they go and buy them, they deploy them, and nobody wants to use them. And by and large, they tend not to work very well, which is why they don't get used.
Yeah.
So when you go through a pilot, you test it, you get a proof of concept. We always say we want to understand what the bad news is, and then we refine that, and we go through a process of really internal alignment of all the stakeholders. These clients are large, complex organizations. Clients like the UK Post Office or any postal service in the world is hugely complex. And you have to align with all these kind of corporate structures, all these personalities, all these departments. You've got marketing, you've got break fix, you've got operations, you've got IT. Deploying a kiosk is one of the few things that will touch all of those different departments. So you have to have all the personalities embedded and aligned within that deployment. It's and that's part of the sales it's not the sales process. It's just something that you have to do to make a successful deployment. And then that's where you align to the vision, you align it aesthetically, you align it from a user-centric. And the other thing is you have to align it from a maintenance and break fix point of view. So with United Airlines, for example, we were able to reduce their break fix call-outs by 93%. That's like 9-3. That's, an enormous achievement. And that meant, from an operational point of view, they were saving 93% of their break fix costs, which really means that, they got a return on, almost immediate return on investment from where they were. They could change a printer in the previous kiosk, took them 1.5 hours, and with ours, they could do it in less than a minute with no tools. So that's like a serious achievement just on that.
It's amazing.
So you bring all of these things together to achieve that goal.
Yeah. Okay, so how do you see the future evolution in kiosks?
So I think, we're following technology.
Yeah.
And our clients often go off and do research. So often we get lots of insights from the clients about what's coming next, working with our partners. Ultimately, I think, AI is clearly, the big game changer. So use of avatars on screens, voice AI, interacting, It's not quite there yet, but that's going to come, it's starting to happen. We're starting to do proof of concepts around that. Payment technology is evolving all the time. There's different rules around the world and different territories, so you have to look at that as well and how you work in payment across international deployment. But you've got things like pin on glass, or maybe using your palm as your payment token, right? So things like credit cards and even mobile payment from your phone could disappear in the future quite soon. Biometrics is a big thing, facial recognition. But again, there's lots of different rules around different countries, different territories about how and when that can be used. So you're really constantly tailoring to resonate with the client, resonate with the technology, resonate with compliance. So, but they're the three big things, I think, in the immediate future that are going to continue to evolve.
There are multiple IoT devices within a kiosk solution.
Yeah, the complexity of the kiosks is growing, from a tablet kiosk that 10 years ago might have had maybe a scanner and a chip and pin reader on it, or a printer. Now we've got kiosks with maybe 20, 25 devices, printing all kinds of things, going into kind of government services, but then also technology often allows you to sort of simplify and reduce. So on one scale, one trajectory, they're getting more complex, but on another, they're getting more simple.
Got it. Okay. So customer expectations are becoming higher. The complexities of the kiosk building is increasing. But with the AI, we're seeing the building complex kiosk solutions is enabling this evolution.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ultimate takeaway is that we're seeing a demand for kiosks, an expectation in the current generation. So, and that's really, well, it's actually proven through the research now that, if you go into a QSR, people just expect to be able to go to a kiosk, interact with it. They don't necessarily want to go to a till and wait and interact with a person. So it's really becomes expectation as opposed to just a company thinking, how can we save money? And that if it's driven by the public, if it's driven by consumers, then it happens.
Yeah, so because consumer wants a frictionless user journey, and that's what they care about.
Yeah, the only successful technology in human history, including the wheel, if you think about it, is only adopted if it's easy to use. So make things easy and intuitive to use, they get adopted and they scale. That's why cell phones are popular, right? Because they were made easy to use. If you still had to carry around a big battery and this big brick, we wouldn't be where we are. And you can apply that to any piece of technology in the history of mankind.
Great, thank you. So if you want to learn more about the collaboration and the collaborative approach with imageHOLDERS and Advantech, kiosks from imageHOLDERS powered by Advantech, please reach out personally to Adrian, Thompson, and David Chantry, or you visit the YouTube and LinkedIn sites. Thank you very much.
Thank you.